This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. Now let's get on to the episode.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Principal Leadership Lab, a podcast experience created for you by two public school administrators. Without further ado, let's join Jeff and Adam in this week's episode.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Another episode of the Principal Leadership Lab. We are on episode number 62 today. Adam, how are you, my friend?
I am doing great. Can you imagine, Jeff, like 1 year ago, approximately like right around this period of time, we released our first episode?
Right. No, it was in June, right? I think we started talking in March, and then in June we released the first. It's been it doesn't seem like that long, you know. It's been so much fun meeting people and hanging out with you every week, and that part's sometimes fun and sometimes
skeptical.
Not. But I'm not worried about that a little bit, but you know.
Yep. But you said March. Go back to that March period of time and think about all of the planning that went into it. You know, StreamYard, Zoom, Discord. How are we going to record it? What's it going to look like? And then eventually, is it Adam Welcome that always says just do it? You know, I mean, that's Nike, but he just doesn't say just do it, but essentially same thing.
Walk through the door. He says,
got to get there. Yeah. So we did. And our first episode was the two of us, and we did a little intro, and it was fun. And what I've learned since then, over 62 episodes, is that every week, I think that we're going to meet somebody. Maybe it's just the two of us. We're going to share, and we're going to do this for the betterment of society. And I end up leaving better than I entered the podcast, every single week.
Absolutely. There's always so much to learn. And even if I'm having, even if I've had a rough day, because a lot of times we'll record later in the afternoon. But, like you and I have talked about, I always leave, and I know you do too, just feeling energized and recharged and better. And I know that our guest today is going to push us. She's going to challenge us. She is going to really just do a great deal of good for our thinking. And I know that we're going to walk away better people today, Adam.
I think so too. I am ready if you are.
Let's go. So our guest today, I think, and she'll correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's about 2 p.m. her time, all the way from Iceland. She is a CEO, a founder, a podcast host of Genius Leadership, Overcoming Everything. She believes, Adam, that each of us have a zone of genius that is unique to us, and specifically as a mind shifter, she helps male leaders get out of that, what she calls get out of the firefighter mode and become the proactive leaders that they want to be, that they're meant to be, and enjoy it as we go along. So I'm really curious and excited to bring in our guest today and our new friend, Anna Leibel. Anna, how are you this morning or this afternoon where you're at?
Hi, Jeff. Hi, Adam. Thanks a lot for inviting and creating this space for conversation. And 62nd episode. Wow. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. 62nd. Was that right? Is it 2 p.m. in Iceland?
Exactly. You are very right.
2 p.m. Okay. So you are 5 hours ahead of us. And as we spoke on the during the pre-show, it is about 59 degrees there. And that's a pretty warm day for summer in Iceland. Yes.
Welcome to this little island here in the middle of the Atlantic.
Well, that's fantastic. I don't think it's much warmer than that here today in Northern Illinois or Northern Wisconsin. It may be a little warmer, 70s, but it's a rainy and overcast day here, and as well as where you're at, Adam, right?
Yeah, it's actually real close to 60 degrees. So 60 degrees, cloudy and rainy. So it sounds a lot like Iceland, except for today in Iceland.
Today in Iceland is sunny, wind still. Actually, there is a bit of wind, but it's warm, and it's just such a beautiful day. And I've been enjoying the balcony for quite a lot of time, taking some meetings there. And even though the degrees don't say much, since we're so up north, the sun is very intense. So when you get this kind of clear and sunny day without the wind, you feel the sun, and you actually get suntanned if you're out in the pools or in the nature. So it's a good day.
I love the feel of the sun. I love it.
Yeah, that sounds like a great day. And I wish that I had a balcony to go and sit on and then take in the views, but I'll have to wait till I get home for that. So well, again, Anna, it's really great to have you on, and you and I connected on LinkedIn, and we chatted a couple weeks ago now, and what a great conversation that was. We're supposed to chat for 15 minutes and turned into almost 45. So I appreciated your time that day. It was really great to talk with you, and I've not been able to stop thinking since about our conversation on rest and relaxation and how it's needed to recharge. So I want to get into that a little bit today as well. I know that in the Nordic countries there, there's a lot of vacation time that is spent resting and rejuvenating. And that's just not the case here. We talk about it, like Adam mentioned, we talk about it a lot, and we encourage our staff to make sure that they recharge and rest, but we don't do it ourselves all the time. And I don't know if that's a male thing. And I bring that up just because of your work. I don't know if it's a leader thing. I don't know. So maybe we'll get into a little bit of that. But before we do, Anna, if you wouldn't mind just getting into a little bit of your journey, and what you've done and how it's brought you to this place in this time, and what you're doing currently for your career and your work and the great work that you're doing. So just for our guests, our listeners who may not know a whole lot about you, just get into that a little bit. What's your journey been like?
It's been a very interesting journey, moving northwest every time. We start with the geography. I was born in Uzbekistan in a Ukrainian family, and I was raised in Ukraine, where I moved with my parents when I was 1.5. And then when I was 21, I decided to do my master's somewhere abroad, and I moved to Sweden. So continued northwest journey. And from there, with a couple of stops around Europe, I actually ended up here in Iceland. So I'm bringing up the geography first of all, because it gives a bit of a sense that I'm used to being the weirdo, the only person with a different background in the room, even if we talk about the background from the culture perspective. But then also that has been the journey in the professional way. I studied project management as my master and computer science in my bachelor studies. And then I started in an engineering global company within automotive. And quite often I was the only girl, the only immigrant, and the youngest person in the room. So talking about the weirdo, I would also be quite often that person that was sticking out in the meeting rooms, especially because I was working with project management, and that usually comes later in the career. So people were older, more experienced. And that sometimes was tough, but I mainly had seen that as the exciting journey in my career and in the conversations that we would have around those tables. And fast forward to now, I'm working on my own, just as you said, Jeff, in the introduction. I work as mind shifter, or helping male leaders, and mainly in tech because of my background, but that can be applied to leadership in any industry. And I help them be better versions of themselves, more sustainable versions of themselves, happier versions of themselves. And when we talk about sustainability, it's really about being those high performers and high achievers, but in the long term, without burning themselves out or burning their people out while leading in an unsustainable way.
So in your journey, you mentioned that you were in that computer science industry as well, and I'm sure so that gave you firsthand experiences with a lot of males within that industry, and you were probably able to observe some of the characteristics or traits that you're using to coach in that realm. Is that kind of how it all started with you?
Yeah, absolutely, Adam. That's how it was. I was observing, and I was the one in that, so to say, kitchen, cooking and boiling, to say. And actually, when I started focusing on corporate clients, I first thought of helping female leaders in tech, because that's my background. That's what I've been. That's what I have experienced and know how challenging that is. But I'm a big believer in gender equality, and I have seen so much lack of communication in the male perspective on that topic. There are so many men in the power positions whose needs are not met. And it's very natural that we are struggling with reaching the true equality based on any kind of background that you're taking. if you're not taking everyone into the consideration and you don't have the conversation with everyone, involving them and engaging them and showing what we are talking about and how they can win from that. And I just feel like it's tragic. So men are unhappy, unhealthy. We see it even on those, like if we go to the extreme cases, the suicide rates are times and times higher for men than for women. So maybe we can start there and see what is not working right now and dig deep into why. And if we start treating the root causes there, then automatically it gets easier for us to reach the gender equality, because everyone is more open to work towards it and everyone sees that they win from that as well.
So how do you go about this as a female and just a person that's interested? So whether it's Jeff, me, or you, just people, not just a female. So you one of the things I read on your LinkedIn profile is that you like to show how empathy and vulnerability can help males in particular become better men of who they are within their leadership role. How do you go about teaching empathy and vulnerability to anyone?
I don't need to teach it per se, because we are sentient beings. That is what defines us as humans. We have feelings. What I'm helping my clients with is actually to explore that part of themselves, explore the part that has been shut out. The society is bringing men up in the way to be strong, to be independent, to really drive things forward and to suppress the feelings. How often have you heard boys being addressed like, don't cry, men don't cry, and those kind of things? That's wrong. And that what then translates into the unhealthy workplaces, where burnouts, where disengagement rates are just skyrocketing in the recent years. It comes from men not having the tools and the strategies to express themselves fully. And that is what we're working on. I'm creating a safe space for my clients where they can explore themselves without the fear of being judged, without the fear of their career and their reputation anyhow being affected by what they are saying in this room. And just having this support, but also being challenged. As Jeff said, that I will today challenge you. That's what I do. I do it in a very loving and caring way. And when people open up, you see it in the body language. How the shoulders drop, how person starts breathing deeper. Those are the things that we all have in us. They're natural to us. And my mission is to bring that nature back to where it belongs in every person.
I love that. And I think it's so much of what you just talked about, Anna, is so critical. And I really like what stands out for me a lot is you said helping male leaders to become more sustainable leaders without burning themselves out. And then you also said, or their employees, and I think that's critical too. I think that what I reflect on when I hear you say that is that too often we talk about, don't burn yourself out, take a rest, take some time for yourself, make sure you practice self-care. But it's not only for you, it's for your employees too. And I think
exactly, Jeff.
I think about this. I think I remember back to when I was an elementary principal, and a teacher said to me one time, I can always tell when you've gone to a conference or a workshop because you come back fired up and you want to put more stuff on us. you want us to practice this new thing, this new initiative, and I really took that to heart. And I thought, wow, I guess I do put a lot of pressure on other people. And I never thought about that until now. It harkens me back to that time about how important it is to not burn others out as well. That's critical.
It is. And what I mean with this is, first of all, we as leaders, we guide by our own example. You see it from your own kids. Jeff, you have 8 of them. I don't know about you, Adam, how many times you are a parent, but we see it, right? We can say the best things with the best intention, but the kids watch us and they do what we do. Mm-hmm. They don't do what we ask them to do. And that's the same with our employees. Every employee is just the same kind of kid within. And when I used to work with project management, I used to say that I work in the kindergarten, because that's the level of communication I tried to reach every time, so that people would be on the same level with each other, and it would be easy so that we don't complicate things that don't have to be complicated. So that's the first thing. When we are putting ourselves first and we are really practicing what we preach, we give permission to our employees to do the same. And just as we discussed, for example, with the vacation. And Jeff, when we connected the first time with you, you talked about that, yeah, your teachers, they do take vacation, but you barely do that. And sure, that means that like, they are not pressured to not take vacation. And you probably are promoting like, guys, you need to rest and so on. But every time they go on vacation, they know that you will be working through those weeks on summer, doing the planning, doing the strategic work so that the school operates well in the next year. And that puts pressure on them. And I'm calling you out here just because it's an ideal example how we come with the best intention and we want to work harder so that our employees can take this rest. But at the same time, we're sending the signal to them that it's true. Okay.
You know, I think that we have even more than, you know, the individual aspects of what you're speaking about, Anna. We have, it's actually decades of deprogramming. You know, I think about even like the early TV shows when our soldiers returned from World War II and, you know, they didn't talk about their emotions. And I hear a lot of my dad's friends that fought in Vietnam and they still don't talk about that, you know, and why wouldn't it be okay for them to shed a tear or to show emotion or to be vulnerable to some of the questions and begin some of the healing processes that may be out there. So I think that we not only, like say Jeff and I say, yeah, we want to do this, but we literally have decades of deprogramming and hundreds of thousands, millions of people to deprogram. It's a uphill battle, isn't it?
It is.
So you have plenty of clients. So you're set.
A huge audience to serve for sure, but not everyone is ready for that, right?
Well, sure.
And I meet so many people who are like, when they get to know what I do, like I have plenty of people on my mind right now, super like long list of names who would really need your services, and that's not my people. Needing and being ready to do the work and wanting to make this transition and transformation, those are two different things. And that's what actually limits the circle of people who want to work with me, because it's work. And I ask for commitment for several months. It's half a year work of weekly meetings. So you need to put the stick in the ground. You need to commit that, okay, you free up 1 hour per week in your calendar to really come and be selfish and to really reprogram, just as you said, Adam. It's the patterns that we have lived with for decades. And it's the patterns that our parents and it's the generational history as well, right? That we take. Yep. And it takes time to relearn.
Yeah, Jeff, you in America, I'm not sure if this is a worldly analogy or word phrase, but you know, how many times you've heard somebody say, oh, just tape an aspirin to it. You'll get over it. You're tough. You're a guy. And that's not how, you know, I mean, if you got a broken hand, you've got a broken hand, go to the doctor, you know, but as a guy, how many guys, I mean, my dad, he's one of them. He never goes to the doctor because I think he sees it as a sense of weakness if he goes to get help, you know?
So true. It's so true. Well, I mean, I think of, you know, I think of the generations of males who, you know, so many of them grew up without fathers, you know, and so don't have the role models to look after, and had to be that male in the household growing up and to be the strong one, wherever even males who didn't grow up with a father figure still seem to me to this sense of having to be strong and this prototype of a male that's not necessarily accurate, you know. So I wanted to make that point, and I also wanted to bring up to you the going back to the burning other people out. You know, my wife says to me all the time that you know, Jeff, I can't keep up with you, and you put pressure on me. And I never understood that. You know, I never understood when she says that, you know, like if I'm at home, like I always have to be doing something, you know. And so she, you know, to her point and to your point as well, I'm putting pressure on her, and I didn't even realize it. I'm burning her out because I won't relax, you know, because I don't feel like I can. I don't feel like I have the permission to. I feel like there's always something to do. And that goes back to our other conversation, Anna, about like leaving your house to go on vacation. Don't stay home. This staycation, you know, don't do that, because you'll always feel like there's something to do, right? I don't know. Just some random thoughts.
Yeah, it's very powerful thoughts and reflections right now, Jeff. And thanks so much for sharing them. That is vulnerability in action, really. Showing like, hey, I have that conversation with my wife, and I'm challenged by her. And just your ability now to reflect that way and transfer or translate our conversation from the professional background and context to the family context and home environment. That's the power of it. That's the power of these conversations that you can actually take and really transform every aspect of your life.
So what would you say to school leaders, like Adam and I, like our listeners are on the Principal Leadership Lab? There are a lot of school leaders. What would you say to a school leader who has that massive responsibility to, as you say, correctly so, during the summer, there's so much planning and there's so many meetings and so much to do to prepare to get ready for the next year. And yet you want to be a role model for your staff and you want to practice what you preach. And we just don't feel like we can. So where would you start with Adam and I, male leaders of school systems? Where would you start with us with empathy and vulnerability?
And I think it's implied too, like Jeff, like you're getting, maybe you're going to say it now and I just jumped in on you, but assume that we want to get better, that we want to change. We're looking to improve. So let's make that assumption.
Good point.
So I would say, first of all, I would really like to acknowledge that education system is hard, right? And it takes toll on people. So it's not an easy fix. And two things I want to do for every listener to do as the foundation is, one, be patient. As we discussed here, we are reworking and rewiring your brain of a couple of decades of different behaviors and thought patterns, but also hundreds of years of experience of the previous generations.
Sure.
That does not take one summer vacation, even if you go away from your home. So first tip, be patient. Secondly, get crystal clear on your why. Why do you want to have this transformation happen? Just as Adam said, we assume that you do want to change something. Really tap into that why. And just the other week, I had a live stream on LinkedIn about that why can be looking very different. But I want you to get to this visual that really fires you up. I had this conversation with my intern. She asked me, like, how do you motivate yourself to train at home? Like, now everything is happening at home. And I said to her, I don't even have a question about that, or I don't question it ever. My visualization of my health is me being an 80+ old woman running around, fooling around, being stupid with her great kids or grandkids, great-grandkids, whatever kids are around. And they are having fun with me. I'm mentally clear enough. I have the memory for that, but I also have the physical capacity for that. And I know that even though I'm in my early 30s, I need to start the day before yesterday to be able to be that grandma. And that visualization fires me up and puts me on the yoga mat every day to do something instead. Find your visualization like this, because this work will be hard. You'll be thrown off track. You'll slip off. Life happens all the time. So you need to have this clear picture. Why are you stepping on that track? And why do you want to get back on it when you slip away?
That's good. I mean, we've read and researched and refer Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Absolutely.
But I like the idea of visualizing your future self. Those weren't your exact words, but that's what I took from it. Visualizing your future self and what do you want to leave behind? You didn't say this, but what do you want to leave behind? What is your legacy for your kids and your grandkids? And is it someone who's going to be at work all the time, and that's what you remember of me, or is it that grandpa or grandma in your case, of rolling around on the floor and taking vacations with the grandkids and providing them with great memories, And I think you'd be hard pressed to find a person to say it was the former, that I want you to remember me as a worker.
Totally. Yep.
So.
Yet this is part of the culture nowadays, right? This hard work ethic and all those kind of things. This is part of the identity we have created for ourselves. And it's hard to get over it and get through it. And that is what I want again to acknowledge. It's not like we're talking here about some things that are super obvious and everyone is stupid because they're not following those. This is just the environment, that the society that has created those patterns, and it's super easy to follow them. And it's very, very, very hard to not. So again, give yourself grace and be patient with yourself. This is a transformation that will help you create your legacy. And again, it's not only about legacy for your family, it's legacy for you as a principal. Just as we discussed with you, Jeff, you have over 200 people as a staff in the school, but you also have over 2,000 of school kids.
Right.
And you are the role model for them.
Right. I think that's the other thing, as I hear you talk, and just reflecting back on my own words, and what I want people to remember of me and how I want people to think of me. And yes, I want them to think of me as a great principal, and someone who knows you well, right? I mean, that's my number one mission here is to help people to realize the power of relationship and connection with others. And that sets the stage for everything else in your life. Just be a good person, but also this person who my own family remembers for being, someone who really values family. And I don't think, we can do that from work. So is it a balance? Is it a blending of the two worlds? So
I think it goes back to what Anna said about it's got to be about the why. So you go to work, not just because of the students and the teachers that you serve, but it's also an income for your family. So if I were to interject for Jeff, I'd say that you're doing some of those things because you need an income, you need insurance, because your family is your priority. Now, a close second may be your school, because I know how much you invest in your teachers and invest in your students and how much time you invest in relationship building, which takes time. But I think your why is your family, and you continually try to expand it. How many kids do you have now? 15, 20? What are you up to?
It's still 8, Adam.
Oh, okay, 8. But at any given day, I know Michelle has such a big heart, your wife, that you could have 2 more. You could have 3 more. I mean, you just never know, right? You're hoping that it's not the case today.
I'm silent on that one, Adam.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I bet she would. I mean, she's got a big heart. So, but your why, I would say that your why is your family. That's what drives you to do the things you do. Sure. So if you're at school and you're bringing that burden home, then you can't be the best husband, father that I know you want to be. And I'm saying the same thing for me. I'm not
same thing for you. I could turn that around and say the same thing about you and your family, in your work. So,
yep,
that's good. See, I knew Anna that today you would push us. You would push our thinking.
We're being vulnerable.
And I really appreciate, Adam and Jeff, that you are so vulnerable, because this is the way to learn for ourselves. This is the way for us to connect with each other, to relate to each other, to see that, hey, I'm not the only weirdo in this space thinking that this is not aligned and I don't want to be this way. And only by bringing these conversations to the audience, to the public, can we actually start creating that change. And talking about legacy, Jeff, I really liked one phrase that I've heard once, and that is, don't let your legacy be seen only when you're gone.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
So think about it. How can you have, what kind of signs of your legacy? What kind of contribution can you have today in your life?
I think anybody that's a parent could probably have a living legacy through their children, the way they behave, the way they tackle situations in life, because they've learned those traits and behaviors and how to solve problems from their parents. In some cases, if we're doing what we're trying to do, invest in those individuals, our family, then I'm hoping that they should be able to learn how dad and mom have behaved when some hardships have come along, or when I want to learn something new. And, I don't have to read a book. I can go to YouTube. I can do other, whatever it is, I can overcome that with the skills that I've imparted or tried to share with them. So we got some big work to do, Jeff.
Yeah, you're not kidding. And I like how, and what you did there, Adam asked you early on in the episode here, how would you go about teaching empathy and vulnerability? And you said you wouldn't directly go about teaching it, and you're showing that to us right now. You're not, through our conversation, I think we're learning. So I really appreciate that. That's good. That's good. And I want more, I want more. It leaves me with wanting more, because I'm thinking about now, like, what am I going to do for the rest of the summer besides take a break? But to do this work and to practice this work, this vulnerability and empathy, when I face my staff, on the very first day of school, and then my kids. So I appreciate that. That's good.
First of all, yay for besides taking break. I think that's already a huge win from today's conversation. But then I want to get practical. I always try to leave audience with some practical tips, and we're discussing here, okay, like you, Jeff, asked, what can our principals start doing this summer to get into that, taking care of ourselves and showing by example and leading by example. And without being in the education space myself, but having served and having been around a lot of leaders in the industry, I want to challenge lovingly and caringly every listener to evaluate, where are you going too far with your ambitions? Because you are so passionate about your work, because you are so committed to your legacy and to your people, be it your employees or your students, where are you going too far and actually spending more of your energy, more of your time, more of the resources of your employees, where good enough would be good enough?
Wow. That's the first thought that came to my head was good to great. Jim Collins' Good to Great, and where he talks about good is the enemy of great, right? And so that's a challenge for people to think about. When is good enough, right? Wow.
One of the things that Jeff and I often talk about on the episode, sometimes it changes, but not always. You've had a vast array of different experiences from what we've talked about today, all the way back to Ukraine, where you were trying to develop a tourist system for people to come visit Ukraine. Now, Jeff, have you ever thought about going on vacation to Ukraine?
I've always wanted to, yes, but I've never thought about.
So now we have a travel agent. We have a travel agent ready to book us and show us around Ukraine. So we'll meet. You leave Iceland in a little while, and Jeff and I will leave the States in a little while, and we'll meet in Ukraine. So I'm sure in your vast array of experiences, you've had some challenges or maybe even some opportunities, as one of our guests often reshapes things and says, it's not a challenge, it's an opportunity. Would you mind sharing with Jeff and I and our audience a challenge or an opportunity that you've either overcome, or maybe you're still pushing through it, because that's okay too?
Adam, it's, again, now I will be vulnerable. The biggest challenge that I've ever faced is actually the one that I'm still going through. So I moved from Sweden to Iceland 2.5 years ago. Our daughter was 1 month old then. I moved for my husband's job. And then soon after, I started my own business, first time ever. So going from corporate to being an entrepreneur. And basically having 2 newborns on my arms, wow. One human one and one business one, and in a new country. And then COVID started. So all those things together have put me in a completely different environment, let's say. And it's hard to separate which challenge depends on which of these changes, let's say that way. And I'm still learning to navigate that. And talking about showing by example and leading by example, I'm struggling with it, to be honest. And I'm super honest about that every time I have an opportunity to talk about that, both with my clients and just like this, in the conversations on podcasts. I hire people and I look for people who can hold me accountable for what I'm teaching others. But I don't want to wait until I'm perfect before I start teaching others to do those things, because I'll never be perfect. Again, talking about good enough. Knowing something and practicing that, it's always a journey. And I'll always keep evolving, but I don't want to wait until I evolve to like good enough degree to serve the leaders I serve. So for me, this is a journey right now that I'm I have to relearn a lot of things for myself. The things that I have developed with a perfectionist, for example, and those kind of things back in the corporate, I was thrown back into those patterns because of all these new environments, being a mom in a new country, being an entrepreneur for the first time, and so on. So this is a journey, and I'm always talking to my team, the small team that I have at the moment, that you need to call me out on those things. And I need your support with really rewiring those patterns again, because I've been better at self-care at some point, but now I've been thrown back with all those environments or change of environment. So I want to show this example because I think it's important to understand that that's not a linear journey with your personal development and your leadership development. You always have some new levels, and not necessarily new devils on those levels. It could be old devils. They just get the new power. And it's always important to keep that in mind and keep going. And again, tapping into your why. Remind yourself, like, yes, I'm on this journey for this reason. And this is just part of the journey. This challenge or this opportunity that I'm going through right now, that's the chance for me to check whether I've done my homework, but also to get deeper maybe into the learnings that I've been going through.
I think that your vulnerability is going to play a part in helping people just by what you're sharing today. I think that Jeff and I, we could probably take what Anna just said and share that as well, like along the lines of our journey with podcasting. Sure. You're putting yourself out there when you put your name on something. So I can kind of relate to what she just shared with us. And thanks for being so vulnerable, because it's good.
Yeah,
Thanks,
absolutely. Adam. And I really like the idea of, having a, I don't even know if you realized you said this, but your team of people that you're able to say, I need you to call me out. I need you to bring me back. I think it again goes to feeling like you should know everything, and that it's okay that you don't, and that it's okay to say to your team, hey, I'm not perfect, and for me personally, I do that with my team. And I think of myself as the big picture guy. And I say that to say, I'm not a detail person. I'm not going to catch some of the small details. So if I have a big idea and it's not a good one, please let me know. What am I missing? Because I know that I need people around me who can do that for me. So I think it's okay to be able to say that, like, I'm not this, but I am that. I think
I'm not afraid to call you out, Jeff.
I know you're not. You never have been. Thank you.
Something that Anna said earlier too, it fits with what you just said and also what she said during her talk about leadership struggle. And earlier in the episode, you talked about it's different, but it's not wrong, the way that people were thinking. But you could apply that same stretch to anything. So when you're talking to your people, your team, like Jeff, you're sharing about you're the big picture idea guy, and your ideas may be different. Somebody else may have a different idea. None of them are wrong. And sometimes we need people to help flesh that bone on a little bit and put some direction to it or some details to it. And I think that's important, that people can be different, but that doesn't mean that they're wrong. I think too many times in our current society that my idea may be perceived as wrong, and then I'm ostracized from the community. People make fun of you. They call you names, but it's not wrong. It's just different sometimes.
Where do you think it's coming from?
I'm going to say, I'm just guessing because I wasn't prepared for that question, but I would say a lot of social media and internet and broadcasting from news stations, people that have a pulpit that can speak louder than what I can. And maybe that's an excuse. I don't know.
Could be, Adam. It could be, but I don't think you're wrong.
There you go. Just different. You think I'm different.
Oh, I definitely think you're different. and that's okay. So where do you think it comes from, Anna?
Well, tapping into what Adam said, I agree that it is all the influences that we have through different sorts of media. But I would say that this is a symptom, and I always like to go deeper. My clients, I teach to go dig 5 layers deeper, asking 5 times why. or asking why 5 times to really get to that root cause. And if we dig deeper here, I would say that the media is teaching us to associate ourselves with the things we do. And I work quite a lot with self-esteem of my clients. This inner belief that I'm worth and I'm worthy just because I am. Not because of the professional identity I have, not because of the achievements of mine and accomplishments and so on. So getting this inner core strong helps us on this journey.
That's so good. I'm worthy just because I am. I love that.
Yep.
Yeah. And that goes back to your question, like, when is good enough? When are you going too far in your work? When can good be good enough? I love that.
We already have an entire episode filled with quotes. So thanks, Anna. I'll be able to use these all year next year. They're powerful too, because they require thought.
Oh my goodness.
It's not just something that you can say. I'm worthy just because I am. Explain that to me. I mean, I could ask people that all day long. What does that mean when I say that to you? Or you're worthy just because you are. Tell me about that. So thanks. This is good. Again, what did we say at the beginning? Every time we meet, we end up learning more than we ever thought we could.
Yeah, for sure. I knew we'd be pushed today in our thinking. So,
and she kind of warned us even.
Yeah, she did. I warned Adam after I got off the first call with you, Anna.
I'm all about expectation management, and if I'm going to be tough, I warned about that.
I love it. It's so good. Well, Anna, I really hate to do this, but we're going to have to wind up. And I just want to ask, one final question today, have some conversation around this, and just ask you very simply, what are you hopeful for?
I'm hopeful for the society where everyone is allowed and empowered to be themselves and to explore what that self is, and be okay with having it as not a constant, but as an evolving thing.
Wow. I think people are going to really benefit from hearing that. And I hope that they think that it gives them permission to do so, permission to explore, and so that you can become empowered. I think it's the perfect wrap to this episode. And again, this whole time I've said it out loud, but I'm feeling like I want more, so I appreciate that. Anytime I think we leave a conversation or a setting or a scenario wanting more, I think that's a good way to leave. So
how do we help Anna provide more to our listeners? What's the best way to contact you, Anna?
So I'm most active on LinkedIn. Look for me with my name, and probably you will put the link in the show notes to make it easier to your audience. Anna Liebel, and you can find me there. And also, as Jeff mentioned, I have a podcast that is called Genius Leadership, Overcoming Everything. Please tune in for more conversations about leading from your zone of genius.
We definitely will, and we will definitely make sure that we promote you and your work. Anna Liebel, thank you so much for joining us this morning here in the U.S. We hope for further conversations with you, and I can't wait for people to hear this. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jeff, and thanks, Adam. It was a beautiful conversation.
All right, Adam, I'll see you next time on the Principal Leadership Lab.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Principal Leadership Lab. Feel free to connect with us in between episodes on Twitter and on Instagram. All of our information is included within our show notes. Until next time, this is Adam signing off for the Principal Leadership Lab.